Hare Krishna. We welcome all of our YouTube live listeners and our Facebook live listeners. Welcome to all of you to this session of Sri Bhagavatamrita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Aradhya Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vṛndāvanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Vakalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Tatra Dharana Paraha Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanath Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swami Niti Namine Nama Acharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaurakatha Dhamadaya Nagaragramatharine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangurlangayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So before we start today's session, we would like to congratulate all of our quiz participants from yesterday's session. So from Facebook, we would like to congratulate Ranjani Gopika Mataji, Radha Padavi Mataji, and Meena Mataji. Congratulations for participating in the quiz session from yesterday. And from YouTube, we'd like to congratulate Hari Krishna Maddali Prabhu, Geeta Varadarajan Mataji, Shweta Manjari Mataji, Janashwar Gauranga Prabhu, and Varshana Chitra Mataji. Congratulations to all of you for wonderfully, sincerely participating in the quiz sessions. So today we will proceed to our session. We are going to cover 3 chapters today. A lot of things will be revealed in these chapters. So chapter 82, Krishna and Balaram meet the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. So this chapter is entitled Krishna and Balaram meet the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. In this chapter, it describes how the Yadavas and many other kings, they met at Kurukṣetra during a solar eclipse and discussed topics concerning Lord Sri Krishna. And it also relates how Krishna met with Nanda Baba and Yashoda Maya and the other residents of Braj at Kurukshetra and gave them immense pleasure. So this is text 1 from chapter 82. Shri Shukha Vacha Athaikada Dvara Vatyam Vasato Rama Krishnayo Suryo Paraga Sumahan Asit Kalpakshaye Yatha. Srila Shukadev Goswami said, once, while Balaram and Krishna were living in Dwarka, there occurred a great eclipse of the sun, just as if the end of Lord Brahma's day had come. So here in relation to this particular first chapter, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that the words Atha and Ekada, that Atha Ekada that we started with today, it's commonly used in the Sanskrit language to introduce a new topic. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Ekada means once, once upon a time, like that, once, on one day. Like that. So it's to introduce a new topic. So here, it specially indicates the reunion of the Yadus and the Vrishnis at Kurukshetra, and it is narrated out of chronological sequence. So we must understand that this is not in chronology. Because remember what we have already understood till now. It is explained by Srila Sanatana Goswami in context to this in very detailed way that he explains in his Vaishnava Toshani. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains that the events of this chapter 82 occurs after Baladev's trip to Vraja. It occurs immediately after that actually, which is in chapter 65 if we may recollect. So chapter 65 is Lord Balaram's visit to Vṛndāvana. And this meeting at Kurukshetra happened actually in chronological way. It happened right after that. And it happened, this chapter 82, which we are discussing now, it actually happened before Yudhishthir Maharaj's Rajasuya sacrifice, which we already discussed in chapter 74. So this must be because Sanatana Goswami gives the reasons why. Why do you think that it should be after chapter 65, after Balaram's visit and before Rajasuya sacrifice? Sanatana Goswami gives the explanation for that. He says that since during the eclipse at Kurukshetra, all the Kurus, including Dhritarashtra, Yudhishthir, Bhishma, Drona, they met in a friendship and they actually happily shared in the company of Krishna. But on the Rajasuya sacrifice, on the other hand, Srila Sanatana Goswami says that Duryodhana's jealousy towards the Pandavas, it became irrevocably inflamed. Soon after the Rajasuya sacrifice, Duryodhana actually challenged Yudhishthir and his brothers to the gambling match, in which he cheated them of their kingdom and exiled them to the forest. Right after the Pandavas returned from the exile, the great battle of Kurukshetra took place, during which Bhishma and Drona were killed. So it is not logically possible, Sanatana Goswami says, that this solar eclipse, at Kurukshetra to have happened, after the Rajasuya sacrifice. It is definitely before the Rajasuya sacrifice. So this is something that we need to understand, that it's not that, especially these last few chapters, today we are in chapter 82. In the next two sessions, we will be completing the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There's 90 chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the next two sessions, we will be able to complete the 10th canto by Krishna's mercy, by the mercy of our spiritual masters, by the mercy of all of you enthusiastic listeners. So these last 8 chapters, we must understand that they are not in chronological sequence. It will be revealed as we move forward. So we must understand this. So therefore, and the chronology is disturbed right starting from here, about where this is the meeting of Krishna and Balaram with, the cowherd men and women of Vṛndāvana. This happened before, right after Balaram's Vṛndāvana visit and before the Rajasuya sacrifice. It will be further clarified when we come to the actual point. Okay, so please stay tuned. Text 2. Knowing of this eclipse in advance, O king, means Shukadev Goswami is telling Maharaj Parikshit that many people went to the holy place known as the Samanta Panchaka in order to earn pious credit. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this holy pilgrimage site known as Samanta Panchaka is located at Kurukṣetra. And it is Kurukṣetra means the sacred ground of the Kurus. That's what Kurukṣetra literally means, the sacred ground of the Kurus, where the Kuru kings, the predecessors, performed many Vedic sacrifices. The Kurus were thus advised by learned Brahmanas that this would be the best place for them to observe vows during eclipse. So long before their time, long before the time of the Kurus, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Sri Parashuram had done penance here at this same spot at Kurukṣetra to atone for all his killings. We have heard how Parashuram got rid of all the Kshatriyas 21 times. And to atone for all of his killings, he actually performed penance here. And the Samanta Panchaka, which means the 5 ponds that he dug in this place, at that time when the Kurus were present, it was present at the end of Dwapar Yuga, and they are present even till today. So till today, we can see this Samanta Panchaka, the 5 ponds that were dug by Parashuram himself. So there is the place where the Kurus and the Vrishnis and the Vrajabasis and even, everyone, they accumulated there. They got together there to, follow the austerities and the rituals of the solar eclipse. Text 9 says, at Samanta Panchaka, the saintly Yadavas bathed and then observed a fast with careful attention. Afterward, they presented Brahmanas with cows bedecked with garments, flower garlands, and gold necklaces. Then, with the permission of Sri Krishna, the Vrishnis had breakfast and sat down at their leisure beneath trees that gave cooling shade. So, everyone, this one is showing as if it was a festival. This solar eclipse proved to be an excuse for all the Vrishni dynasty, the Yadavas, the Vrajabasis, to all of them to come together and to meet together before the great impending battle of Kurukshetra. So this is that opportunity. So it is said that, the Yadavas were overjoyed to see their old friends and they were shedding tears of happiness. So like this, everybody was, meeting all their relatives. Queen Kunti Maharani was also there, and she saw her brother Vasudev. And she put aside her sorrow and she told Vasudev, oh, my dear brother, I am so unfortunate because all of you forgot me during my tribulations. Alas, even one's relatives forget a person whom providence no longer favors. So Kunti Maharani to her brother, she is like with her adhikar, this is like she's the younger sister of Vasudev. So with that, Adhikar, she's saying, I underwent so much trouble, so much tribulations, but you never came to even help me. So then Vasudev replies that, my dear sister, everyone is a merely plaything of fate. We Yadavas were so harassed by Kamsa that we were forced to scatter and take shelter in fallen lands. So there was no way for us to keep in touch with you. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that how could Vasudev have kept in touch with Pritha? Because Vasudev and Devaki were themselves imprisoned by the notorious Kamsa. So this is the inner meaning of Vasudev, that he's saying that, my dear sister, it's not only you who suffer, even we are suffering. And Krishna came to relieve you of your sufferings. Krishna relieved us of all our sufferings. So like this, they were all glorifying Krishna. The Yadavas, it is explained that they were delighted, and seeing Nanda Baba, they were so happy. Vasudev embraced Nanda Baba and remembered how when Vasudev was tormented by Kamsa, Nanda Maharaj had taken his sons Krishna and Balaram under his protection. So Balaram and Krishna, they came in front of Nanda Baba and Jashoda Maya and bowed down to Mother Jashoda and to Nanda Baba, but their throats were all choked up and they could not say anything to Jashoda Maya. And it is said that Nanda and Jashoda, they lifted both the sons on their lap, like Mother Jashoda, she carried Krishna, Nanda Baba carried Balabhadra, and they sat. Imagine, Krishna was already the father of 10 sons each of his 16,108 queens. He was a fully grown man. But to his mother, he was still that, tiny child. So Jashoda Maya and Nanda Baba, they took both their sons on their lap, and, they were embracing them. And, Krishna and Balaram were relieving Nanda Baba and Jashoda Maya from the distress of separation. So Rohini Mata and Devaki, it is said that at this point, when they were all inside the tent, that, Nanda Baba was called out by Vasudev to meet with the other, kings like Ugrasena and the other Kurus. So Nanda Baba was called out. So it was only the ladies who were inside the camp, inside the tent. So Rohini Devi and Devaki Mata both embraced Mother Jashoda, and remembering the great friendship that she had shown to them, told her that her kindness had, that so much out of her kindness, she showered so much love to Krishna and Balaram. And, they just were expressing their heartfelt gratitude to Mother Jashoda. Then it is explained that Krishna then approached the young cowherd girls who were waiting in anxiety to meet with their beloved Lord Sri Krishna in a secluded place. So text 39 says, Srila Shukadev Goswami says, that while gazing at their beloved Krishna, the young gopis used to condemn the creator of their eyelids, which would momentarily block their vision of him. Now seeing Krishna again, after such a long separation with their eyes, they took him into their hearts. And they embraced him to their full satisfaction. In this way, they became totally absorbed in ecstatic meditation on him, although those who constantly practice mystic yoga find such absorption difficult to achieve. So very clearly, Srila Shukadev Goswami, it is said that, Shukadev Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that Srila Shukadev Goswami loves the Gopi Geet. Because he just loves so much, because that Gopi Geet is actually the cry of the gopis, in separation from Krishna. It is Srimati Radharani who is the Swamini, who is the master, who is, the goddess who, Shukadev Goswami worships. So it is his Swamini who is singing this Gopi Geet. So Shukadev Goswami, he loves to quote about the Gopi Geet, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out. That's why he is himself quoting here about the Gopi Geet. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also points out that, he explains that, when Balaram and Krishna were coming out of the camp along with Nanda Baba, That time, Lord Balaram, he saw that the gopis were standing at a distance away. Seeing them trembling with eagerness to meet with Krishna, he tactfully decided to get up and get involved, somewhere else, so that the gopis could meet with Krishna freely. So that's when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that, Shukadev Goswami does not leave an opportunity to, in recollecting how the, gopis are remembering Krishna. And especially this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that especially this 15th verse of the Gopi Geet is extremely dear to Srila Shukadev Goswami, which he is quoting here, that, the gopis are cursing Lord Brahma for his imperfection that he has created eyelids, their vision of Krishna. So this text 15 of Gopi Geet is Atatiyat Bhavan Anikananam Trutiyugayate Tvamapashyata Kutila Kuntalam Shrimukham Chate Jadaudikṣhatam Akṣmakridrisham. The gopis are condemning Lord Brahma that why did you create our eyelids that they have to blink constantly and we can't see Krishna? So Srila Prabhupada in his Krishna book, he also mentions in this regard, he says that because the gopis had been separated from Krishna for those so many years, and when they came along with Nanda Baba and Jashoda Maya, they were feeling great ecstasy in seeing Krishna. And as soon as Krishna became visible to them, they took him inside their hearts, through their eyes, and embraced him to their full satisfaction. Even though they were embracing Krishna only mentally, they became so ecstatic, Prabhupada mentions, that they became overwhelmed with joy, that for the time being, they completely forgot themselves. The ecstatic trance which they achieved simply by mentally embracing Krishna is impossible to achieve by great yogis. Krishna could understand the gopis were enwrapped in ecstasy. So therefore, Krishna, he also reciprocated with the gopis by embracing them in their hearts like that. So here at this point, in the Utkala Khanda of the Skanda Purana, it gives another account that happened during this very incident, that about the appearance of Lord Jagannath. So it is explained, of course, in the Utkala Khanda that during a solar eclipse, Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra, and all the other residents of Dwarka, they went to bathe in the holy ponds of Kurukshetra. And knowing that Krishna would be there, Srimati Radharani and all the Vrajabasis, they all came to Kurukshetra. And when they came, of course, Krishna met with gopis and Srimati Radharani in seclusion, like this verse explains. But what was happening in the tent in the meanwhile, where Mother Jashoda, and Rohini Mata and Devaki Mata were sitting, and all the 16,108 queens of Krishna were sitting, and Subhadra Devi, the young sister of Krishna and Balaram, were also sitting. So at that assembly, inside the tent, was also present Queen Draupadī. Draupadi was also present during this time. And it is explained that the queens of Krishna, they started begging Mother Jashoda and Mother Rohini that please, please, please tell us about Krishna and his amazing pastimes in Braj. Because how much ever we are able to please Krishna, Krishna can never forget Vṛndāvana. So we have not been able to, witness The childhood pastimes and the pastimes of Krishna killing Kaliya, subduing Kaliya, Krishna lifting Giriraj, all of this we've just heard, bits and pieces. Can you please tell us? And Mother Jashoda said, no, I can't tell because, Krishna Balarāma are nearby. And when I start speaking, and then if Krishna Balaram hear that I'm speaking, because as soon as I speak, I will start crying in their separation. I will start crying very badly. After every pastime, I will cry. And when Krishna Balaram hear that I'm sad in their absence, then Krishna Balaram will feel very sad. So I will not speak. Mother Jashoda refused. So at that time, the the wives of Krishna, they started begging Mother Jashoda that no, please, you have to say. So then Mother Jashoda said, okay, one condition I will speak, that let Shubhadra go outside the tent and let her, be like a doorkeeper, so that she can, she should, face towards the door, and she can keep listening, but she should stay there and she can signal me as soon as Krishna Balaram come, then I will stop speaking. So then all the queens, Shubhadra Devi completely agreed. She said, yes, Maya, I will do that. You start speaking, I will sit outside. So Shubhadra Devi went right outside the tent door, and she closed the curtain to the door, and she sat right outside over there. And she sat like this, looking outside, facing the outside, to keep an eye out on Krishna Balaram. But her ears, she was listening very attentively. Then Mother Jashoda started narrating one pastime after the other, how Krishna destroyed Putana, then Trinavarta, Shakatasura, all the demons, one after the other. And then how Krishna protected the Vrajabasis every single time. And after narrating one pastime, Mother Jashoda would go into, transcendental anxiety. She would burst out crying, tears of, separation from Krishna and Balaram. She would say, hi. She would say, hi, what to do? I don't have that association. Rohini Mata would cry, Mother Jashoda would cry, and seeing both of them cry, everybody else in the assembly was crying. Everyone was crying. So like this, Mother Jashoda went on explaining. She explained how Kaliya got delivered. She explained how Krishna saved the Vrajabasis from Indra's torrential rains, lifting of Sri Giriraj, 7 days, 7 nights, how it was a beautiful festival for Braj. Like this. So because every other pastime, Krishna is not present every moment of the day, but this Giriraj pastime is one such pastime, unique, that Krishna was present in front of the entire Braj who took shelter of Giriraj. Krishna for 7 days and 7 nights. The Brajbasis were getting his association, and Krishna was getting their association, uninterrupted. They were all like so joyful. So like this, Jashoda Maya and Rohini Devi, they were both explaining, and they were crying. And when, Shubhadra Devi, when she was hearing, my brothers, my brother Balaram, he killed Pralambasura. Kaliya, Krishna danced on Kaliya's hoods, and her eyes were getting big. Her hands were shriveling down, and she forgot to notice that Krishna Balaram came and stood on either side of Shubhadra Devi. She forgot. She did not even notice. And even when Krishna and Balaram came and stood right next to, on either side of Shubhadra Devi, they were also getting so amazed. They were getting so amazed to witness that how much the Brajbasis love us. How can anyone love us to this extent? They were just amazed. Ashcharya. They were getting so amazed. So even their hands were, their palms were going inside, their fingers were going inside, and their legs, they were coming inside, and they were getting all shriveled up. Their eyes were going big. How can, everyone love us so much? And this was the snapshot of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra manifesting right outside the tent at Kurukshetra. And right at that time, Narad Muni was passing by. And Narad Muni immediately, we'll see how Narad Muni appears. So Narad Muni, he appears at that moment and he immediately offers obeisances to this most merciful and most amazing form of Shri Jagannath, Balabhadra, and Subhadra Devi. And as soon as he offers obeisances to them and he gets up, this form has disappeared. I said, where is that form? Where is that merciful form? And then Krishna Balaram say, yes, we will manifest it very soon. This is our Daruk Brahma form. So like this, Krishna Balaram, they continue. So how the gopis, they're cursing Lord Brahma for the creation of the eyelids. So Krishna, in reciprocation to this love of the gopis, he manifested as Lord Jagannath, as the Lord who does not blink. Lord Jagannath doesn't have eyelids. This is the way Lord Jagannath reciprocates. Krishna reciprocates with the love of the gopis. That he defied the creator, Lord Brahma. Gopis called him foolish, foolish Lord Brahma. He made eyelids. So Jagannath said, I don't need eyelids just to reciprocate with this pure love of the gopis. Krishna manifested in this form of Lord Jagannath without any eyelids. Shri Jagannath Balabhadra Subhadra Devi ki jai. So this is from the Utkal Khanda that this incident happened. I narrated this incident in this context of this particular verse so that, we can make the connection of the Lord who does not blink, Lord Jagannath, and the gopis, where they're cursing Lord Brahma for their eyelids. But I will mention it later in the next chapter that we read, that exactly at what point this particular incident happened. So, moving on, coming back to Srimad Bhagavatam, text 40 of this chapter 82, the Supreme Lord, he approached the gopis in a secluded place as they stood in their ecstatic trance. After embracing each of them and inquiring about their well-being, he laughed and spoke to them as follows. And he inquired from them. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna joked with them saying that, are you now relieved of your pain of separation? And he laughed to help lighten up the spirit of the gopis. So Krishna first started by saying in text 41, he says, my dear gopis, do you still remember me? It was for my relative's sake, that I had stayed away for so long and I was destroying my enemies. So then Krishna continues to joke for a little while. And he says, but my dear gopis, text 44 says, rendering devotional service to me qualifies any living being for eternal life. But by your good fortune, you have developed a special loving attitude toward me by which you have obtained me directly. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the gopis do not wish for eternal life. They do not wish that they want to go back home, back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. They just want to be with Krishna. They just want to be around Krishna, whatever situation Krishna would keep them. That is the mood of the gopis. Text 48, the last concluding verse of this chapter. The gopis speak. My dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are ordinary girls engaged in household affairs. So the gopis are, showing their humility, but at the same time, they are expressing their heartfelt desire to Krishna. This brings us to chapter 83. Draupadī meets the queens of Krishna. So this chapter relates a conversation between Draupadī and Lord Krishna's foremost queens, in which each of them describe how the Lord actually had married her. So Lord Sri Krishna, it is said that he returned after meeting with the gopis and he asked Maharaj Yudhishthir and his other relatives whether they were well, how are they doing? And Yudhishthir Maharaj replied that, yes, my lord, just by, remembering you and your pastimes, we can have no misfortune upon us. This was what Yudhishthir Maharaj responded. Then Draupadi Devi, she inquired from Lord Krishna's wives how the Lord came to marry them. So Queen Rukmini, she spoke first. So text 8, Rukmini Devi said, well, when all the kings held their bows at the ready to assure that I would be presented to Shishupal, Krishna, who puts the dust of his feet on the heads of invincible warriors, took me from their midst as a lion forcibly takes his prey. May I always be allowed to worship those lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the abode of the goddess Shri. Then text 9, Satyabhama Devi says, my father, his heart was tormented by his brother's death, accused Krishna of killing him. To remove the stain on Krishna's reputation, the Lord defeated the king of the bears and took back the Shamantaka jewel which he returned to my father. And fearing the consequences of his offense, my father offered me to the Lord, even though I had been promised to others. This is what Satyabhama said. She was talking about Satyajit, who had possessed the Shamantaka jewel. The next, Sri Jambavati Devi said, that unaware that Lord Krishna was none other than his own master and worshipable deity, my father fought with him for 27 days. And when my father finally came to his senses and recognized the Supreme Lord, he took hold of his feet and presented him with both me and the Shamantaka jewel as token of his gratitude. And I am simply the Lord's maid servant. This is what Jambavati Devi said. Then Sri Kalindi, she said, the Lord knew I was performing severe austerities and penances with the hope of one day touching the lotus feet of the Lord. So he came in the company of his friend Arjuna and took my hand in marriage. Now I'm engaged as a sweeper in his palace. Then Mitravinda Devi said, at my Swayamvara ceremony, he came forward, defeated all the kings present, including my brothers who dared insulted him, and took me away just as a lion removes his prey. Thus Sri Krishna, the shelter of the goddess of fortune, brought me to Dwarka. May I be allowed to serve him by washing his lotus feet life after life. So in text 40, Rohini Devi. Now this Rohini Devi is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is one of the principal of the 16,100 queens who, Bhaumasura had captured. So this Rohini Devi is the wife of Krishna. So this Rohini Devi, she's speaking on behalf of the other 16,099 queens of Krishna. She says that after killing Bhaumasura, the Lord found us in the demon's prison and could understand that we were the daughters of the kings whom Bhauma had defeated. So the Lord set us free, and because we had been constantly meditating upon his lotus feet, he agreed to marry us, though his every desire is already fulfilled. So, this one thing, if we can notice, when all the queens were speaking, although their position is so exalted as the wives of Krishna, but they are just asking to be a maid servant of Krishna's lotus feet. May I be a sweeper. May I just be a servant of the lotus feet. This shows the humility of each and every queen, which is pointed out by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And it is at this time, at this very moment, after Draupadi is finished talking to all the queens, getting introduced to all the queens of Krishna, at this time the queens actually begged Mother Jashoda and Mother Rohini to narrate to them Krishna's full pastime. So that entire Utkala Khanda, that actually happened at this juncture. So then this brings us to chapter 84, which is entitled The Sage's Teachings at Kurukshetra. So this chapter describes the arrival of great sages at Kurukshetra to observe the auspicious occasion of a solar eclipse. And the sages, they come and glorify Sri Krishna and Vasudev's enthusiastic performance of, different sacrifices. So it is said that, this chapter describes that how, this during this time of this solar eclipse, exalted ladies were present all together, in one place. Exalted ladies like Kunti Devi, Draupadi, Shubhadra Devi, they all got the chance to associate with Lord Krishna's queens. And seeing how much the Lord's consorts loved their husband, the ladies were all struck with wonder. And as the women, they talked amongst themselves, the men also talked amongst themselves in separate tents. And great sages, headed by Narada and Vyasadeva, arrived there desiring to see Krishna. And we know that Narad Muni, when he appeared, just at the end of chapter 83, he had appeared at that time when he came and saw Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. So here it is confirmed that Narad Muni had appeared at this time. And then when all the great sages, when they appeared, Krishna and Balaram, they stood up in reverence and they bowed down to these great souls and offering them suitable sitting places and water, and they washed their lotus feet. Then Krishna glorified these sages, and, Krishna's words, how Krishna actually spoke. He said that we are just, Krishna spoke like a mere householder. And he glorified the sages. He said that you sages are so exalted, and you have come here to this place of Kurukshetra, or your only purpose of coming here is to bless all of us householders, Krishna says. So this, Krishna says that the water at a holy place of pilgrimage and the deity forms of the gods can purify only one after a long time. But saintly sages purify just by being seen. Krishna says this. And this has been also, spoken by one of our great Vaishnava saints. He says the qualities of a Vaishnava. He says, গঙ্গার পরশ হইলে পাশ্চাতে পাবন দর্শনে পবিত্র কর এই তোমার গুণ. That the quality of a Vaishnava is that he purifies just when we take darshan of a Vaishnava. Ganga, we have to touch, and then the purification happens later. This is a statement made by Krishna in this very chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore Krishna is saying, so my dear sages, your coming over here is, it in itself is like the fulfillment and the success of all our vratas that we did, that you have come giving us an opportunity to worship all of you. So like this, Krishna spoke in such a sweet and palatable way that everyone's heart was completely mesmerized by these sweet talks of Krishna. So, how the gopis say that Krishna, he mesmerizes everyone by his sweet talks. Madhuraya gira valguvakyaya budhamanognaya pushkarikshana vidhikari rima viramuyati adharasi dhuna pyayayasvana. Krishna, his words can mesmerize anyone. So Krishna spoke so beautifully that the the hearts of the sages, each and every one of the sages, their hearts were melted. And not just the sages, but even the grihastas who were there, the kings, the queens, everyone who came to honor the great sages, even they were, yes, they completely agreed with whatever Krishna was saying. That is the mesmerizing sweetness of Krishna's sweet, melodious words. So after hearing from Sri Krishna speak these words, the sages, they actually got a little confused. Srila Prabhupada explains in Krishna book that they got bewildered. That's the word Srila Prabhupada uses. That the sages remained silent for some time because they were bewildered. They did not know how to reciprocate, how to respond with the Lord's humility. They did not know, they did not find suitable words. Then after some time they said, how amazing our Lord is. He covers his true identity with human-like activities and pretends to be subject to superior control. Surely he has spoken in this way only to enlighten the general population. Such behavior of the Supreme Lord is indeed inconceivable. The sages conclude by saying this. And the sages continue to glorify the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul in everyone's heart, and the friend and the worshipper of the Brahmanas. Namo Brahmana Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. Jagadhitaya Shri Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. This is the prayer that the sages, they worshipped Shri Krishna with. So after the sages had praised Shri Krishna, Lord Krishna offered them his obeisances and then begged his permission. The sages then begged his permission, the Lord's permission, to return back to their hermitages. But just then, Vasudev, Krishna's father, he came forward and he bowed down to the sages and asked that what activities can one perform to be freed from the bondage of fruitive work? You see, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that when a sage visits, when a pure devotee of the Lord visits, yes, we must glorify them, but we must also ask, suitable questions to them, which will be beneficial not just to us, but to whoever will listen to this. So for that, Vasudev, being a perfect personality, the father of Sri Krishna, he came forward and asked the sages this question. So Vasudev then requested the sages to act as his priests, and he arranged for Vedic sacrifices to be performed with super excellent paraphernalia, because the sages responded that any activity because Vasudev asked that how can we become free from the bondage of fruitive work? So the sages responded by saying that any activity which is done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord can free us from the bondage of fruitive work. So therefore Vasudev then said that, so my dear sages, you become the performer of these sacrifices and help us to achieve that. Then Vasudev, presented all the priests with valuable gifts of cows, jewelry, and different other paraphernalia. And then he performed the ritualistic bath, which marked the end of the sacrifice. And he fed everyone sumptuously. And even, everyone in the surrounding villages, even the animals and the dogs in those villages were fed by Vasudev. That no living entity would go hungry like that. Then he gave ample gifts to all his relatives, the various kings who were there, and who all took Sri Krishna, and they all, they came to Vasudeva and to Krishna, and they took leave from Krishna, and they returned to their respective kingdoms. Then it is explained, unable to depart because of his intense affection for Sri Krishna and Balaram, Nanda Maharaj remained at Kurukṣetra for 3 months. He was served with great reverence during this time by the Yadavas. It is explained that, Nanda Maharaj, he would say, yeah, we will depart later during the day today. We will go today. Then when that time would come, Nanda Baba would say, no, we'll depart tomorrow morning. Every day Nanda Baba would say like this, because he was not able to leave from Kurukshetra, because that would mean leaving Krishna and Balaram. So he was not able to leave and go away from Kurukshetra. So then, on one occasion, it is explained that Vasudev began to describe the deep friendship that Nanda Baba had shown him, and he started crying profusely. Vasudev started crying, profusely, showing his gratitude to Nanda Baba. Then text 67 and 68, it is explained. This is towards the end of this chapter. This is very important. This will give us the entire context of what we have been talking from the beginning today. So, text 67 and 68. Then after Vasudev, Ugrasena, Krishna, Uddhava, Balaram and others had fulfilled Nanda Baba's desires and presented him with precious ornaments, fine linen, and varieties of priceless household furnishings, Nanda Maharaj accepted all these gifts and finally took their leave. Seen off by all the Yadus, he departed with his family members and, came to Vraja. So here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains from the Harivamsha, he explains a very beautiful conversation. He says that at the end of the 3 months, after 3 months went by, Nanda Maharaj approached Krishna one day after 3 months. And Nanda Baba very lovingly told Krishna that, my dear son, for one drop of perspiration from your divine lotus face, I am ready to give up millions of lives. Come with me to Vraj. Please, come with me right now. I cannot spend any moment without you, my dear Krishna. After speaking to Krishna like this, Nanda Baba went to Vasudev and he told him, my dear friend, please send Krishna to Vraj with me. And he came to Ugrasen Maharaj and he said, please, Maharaj Ugrasen, you please order my friend Vasudev that he grant this desire of mine. If you refuse, I will have to drown myself here in Lord Parashuram's lake. So if you don't believe me, watch. I will drown right now. We people of Raj came to this holy place not to gain some piety on the occasion of the solar eclipse, but just to get Krishna back. We have come only for that purpose. So like this, Nanda Baba was begging everyone, including Krishna. So hearing these desperate words from Nanda Baba, Vasudev and the others, they tried to pacify him. And then Vasudev consulted with his trustworthy advisors and then satisfied Nanda Baba by telling him that, my dearest friend, O King of Vraja, it is of course true that none of you can live without Krishna. And how can we allow you to kill yourself? No, we cannot allow that. Therefore, by all means, I must send Krishna back to Vraj. I will do so right after we accompany him and his relatives and friends among many helpless women. Let us go back to Dwarka. Then the very next day, without trying to obstruct him in any way, I will let him leave for Vraja at an auspicious time of the day. This I swear to you 1,000 times over, my dear friend, I promise you. After all, how can we come here with Krishna? How can we go back without Krishna? What will people say about us? So you are a great scholar. So please, you understand our situation, that we came with Krishna, and let us go back with Krishna to Dwarka. And the very next day, Nanda Baba, I promise you, I will send Krishna to Vraj. Then Ugrasen Maharaj, he addressed Nanda Baba. He said, my dear master of Vraj, I bear witness I am Sakshi to Vasudev's statement and take this solemn vow that I will send Krishna back to Vraj, even if I have to do it by force. This was what Ugrasen Maharaj said. Then Sri Krishna, who was joined by Uddhava and Balaram, they took Nanda Maharaj on the side. And Krishna spoke to Nanda Baba very privately. And he said, my dear father, if I go directly to Vraja today, leaving aside all these Vrishnis, they will die from the pain of separation from me. Then many thousands of enemies, more powerful than even Keshi and Arishta, will come to annihilate all these demons, all these kings. So see how Krishna is speaking. So Krishna is saying that these Vrishnis will die in separation of me if I come with you to Vraja today. But and these, kings who are dependent on me, if I leave them now, then powerful enemies who are more powerful than Keshi and Arishta. Why did Krishna give Keshi and Arishta's, example? Because Nanda Maharaj can relate. Nanda Maharaj doesn't know the qualities of Jarasandha or, Kamsa even, or whatever. He doesn't care of those people. But in Nanda Baba's mind, he can relate to Keshi and Arishta. So Krishna uses these two demons. He says, those powerful, enemies can attack who are more powerful than Keshi and Arishta, Nanda Baba, and I have to protect these kings. And then Krishna makes a very bold statement. Krishna says, since I am omniscient means I know everything. I am the knower. I am Sarvagya. Krishna says, since I am Sarvagya, I know what is inevitably going to happen. Listen, and I will describe it to you, Nanda Baba. After returning from here, I will go straight to Dwarka. And right then, I will receive an invitation from Yudhishthir, and I will go to Indraprastha to participate in his Rajasuya sacrifice. There was no talk about Yudhishthir Maharaj. Yudhishthir Maharaj had not even planned about the Rajasuya sacrifice. Krishna knows all of this. So Krishna says, I will receive an invitation to go to Indraprastha to participate in Yudhishthir's Rajasuya sacrifice. There I will kill Shishupal, after which I will again return to Dwarka and I will kill Shalva. So Krishna is saying all of this. Krishna is saying that I will come, I will go there, I will kill Shishupal, and then I will come back to Dwarka and I will kill Shalva. Next, I will travel to a place just a little south of Mathura. I will come near Vṛndāvana, just to Mathura. And I will kill Dantavakra. And then I will just cross the Jamuna and I will come straight into Vṛndāvana and I will come and meet you, my dear friends, and I will sit in your lap with great pleasure. So we heard all this yesterday from Prabhu, that how Krishna came to Mathura and he killed Dantavakra and he just swam in the Jamuna and he said, okay, let me go into Vṛndāvana. So this was all told in secret by Krishna himself at Kurukṣetra before all of these incidents actually happened to Nanda Baba. So Krishna says that, now Krishna again, he first calls himself to be Sarvagya, that he knows all of this. And now see how Krishna changes his dialogue. He says, God, the Supreme Lord, Nanda Baba, he has written all this fate on my forehead. Krishna is saying this, that God has written this fate on my forehead, and it has been written on your foreheads also, that until the day I return to Vraja, you must tolerate separation from me. Neither of our destinies can possibly be changed. So please find the courage to leave me now and go home to Vraja, and I will come. Krishna promises, I will come. And if in the meantime, you, my dear parents, and you, my beloved friends, are distressed by the unavoidable fate written on our foreheads, then whenever you wish to feed me some delicacy or play some game with me or simply see me, just close your eyes and I will appear before you to turn your torment into pleasures, and I will fulfill your desire. I promise you this, that whenever you think of me, I will be present right in front of you. So, and Krishna says that in the end, he says that I promise you this, whose lives I saved from the forest fire. So I saved all of you, and I promise you I will fulfill my promise. So like this, Krishna so beautifully spoke to Nanda Baba. So convinced by all these statements, of Krishna's especially, and knowing that Krishna's happiness was of prime importance. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that, Nanda Baba could understand that Krishna will come to Vraj, but not now. Now he has certain unfulfilled duties, which he has to go and render. So Nanda Baba, in order to satisfy the desire of Krishna, he was ready to bear the torment of Krishna's separation. This is pure love. That for one who we love, we are ready to undergo any difficulty, any distress, if it makes the one whom we love, if it makes them happy. This is the love of the Vrajabasis. That is why the love of the Vrajabasis is unparalleled. And like how, Prabhu was explaining yesterday, that when Krishna finally came to Braj, he actually spent, 2 whole months in Vṛndāvana with Nanda Baba, Jashoda Maya, and with everyone else, Srimati Radharani and the cowherd, friends. And then he wrapped up entire Braj and transported them to the spiritual world. Everyone went back. So he wrapped up, before, wrapping up the pastimes in Dwarka, Krishna, long before, he wrapped up Vraja's pastimes, and he transported everyone back to Goloka Vṛndāvana. So this is Krishna, and how dear the Vrajabasis are to Krishna. So text 69 says, unable to withdraw their minds from Lord Govinda's lotus feet, where they had surrendered, Nanda Baba and the cowherd men and women and the young gopis and the gopas, they all returned back to Mathura Vṛndāvana. Text 70 says, their relatives having thus departed, the Yadavas' relatives having thus departed, and seeing that the rainy season was approaching, the Vrishnis, whose only shelter was Krishna, they also came back to Dwarka. Text 71, the final verse of this chapter says, they came back, the Vrishnis, they came back to Dwarka, and they told the people of the city about the festive sacrifices performed by Vasudev, the lord of the Yadus, and about everything else that happened, and about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and Balaram, and how they had met all of their loved ones. So with this, we end today's session. If there's any questions, comments, or reflection, we can take that now. Before that, we will also take today's quiz. So we have 8 questions for today. First, after which event did the meeting of Krishna and Balaram with residents of Vṛndāvana take place? Second, what is the Samanta Panchaka? Third, why did the Vrajabasis accumulate in Kurukṣetra? Fourth, why did the gopis condemn Lord Brahma? Fifth, what was special for Vrajabasis during the Govardhan Leela? Sixth, why did Jashoda Mata initially refuse to speak Krishna's pastimes to Krishna's queens in Kurukshetra? Seventh, in which khanda is the pastime of appearance of Lord Jagannath recited? Eighth, why did Krishna compare enemies of Dwarka to Keshi while speaking to Nanda Baba? So these are the questions for today. We have a question by Radhakrishnan Prabhu. Yes. So Radhakrishnan Prabhu is saying that how did Devaki and Vasudev withstand the separation of Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why they did not get a chance to see the childhood pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna? Very good question, Prabhu. How much they were affected by the separation of the Lord. Yes, they were definitely they were affected by the separation of the Lord. And when we were discussing this particular, especially the part when Krishna Balaram come to Mathura, we did mention this point, which we will repeat now, that Devaki and Vasudev were Prishni and Sutapa in their previous life, who asked for the benediction to have a son equal to the Lord. And Nanda Jashoda, on the other hand, they were Drona and Dhara in their previous birth, and they performed severe austerities to serve the Supreme Lord as their son. So he was born to Prishni and Sutapa because they asked a son equivalent to the Lord, and Nanda Jashoda asked to serve the Supreme Lord as their son. So this is a difference between both, Prishni and Sutapa, they had said that we want you to be born from both of us. So the Lord, being pleased with their devotion, had said Tathastu 3 times. So he came, 3 times, first as Prishni Garbha, then as Lord Vamanadev, and then finally as Krishna. So, they wanted the Lord to be just born of them, But Drona and Dhara, their prayer was that they wanted to serve the Supreme Lord as their son. So there's a difference between the two. So another reason is also because the degree of love of Vasudeva and Devaki made them sacrifice Krishna's childhood in order to carry out the order of the Lord. So as Vasudeva carried out this order, we can imagine the kind of sacrifice, that Vasudeva actually had to undergo in order to just fulfill this, mission and the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How much? So actually in the forthcoming chapters, we will see how, actually just in the next chapter, we'll see how Krishna is speaking to Vasudeva, glorifying him, and also giving him teachings, and then how, Krishna is glorifying his mother Devaki. So all of that also is coming up. So please stay tuned. I hope this answers your question to some extent. We have another question from Meena Mataji. If Krishna's disappearance is like that, then I have heard that Krishna been killed by a hunter who is no one other than Vali in previous birth. How can I relate this? Please enlighten. Well, this portion of Krishna being killed by the hunter, it's not that Krishna was ever killed by the hunter. It's not like that. But this hunter, his arrow apparently just touched the lotus feet of Sri Krishna's. So we will explain this in the 11th canto when we come to that. So we request you to please have just wait a little. So, when the time is right, when we speak of this, then it'll be more nectarian. Pratiksha ka phal meetha hota hai. So please wait, and we will definitely reveal this. Hope that is okay. And then we have Rajeshwari Mataji, that after this pastime, how Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra Devi appeared and how they appeared. In last class, Nanda Baba and others, everyone left the spiritual world. Now how to understand. So Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they are also originally present in the spiritual world. In one of the Vaikuntha planets. Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra's form is eternal. And they manifested in this world, through the pastime with Maharaj Indradyumna. That's a separate class in itself. How Jagannath appeared to Maharaj Indradyumna and how he was previously worshipped as Nila Madhava. Then Nila Madhava went away, and then he came as this wooden log, and he was carved by Vishwakarma himself. And he manifested in this form of Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. So that is how Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra appeared. And Nanda Baba and others left to the spiritual world. How to understand? Well, Nanda Baba and Jashoda Maya and all the Vrajabasis, they are Nitya Siddhas. They are Nitya Siddhas. They belong in the Goloka Vṛndāvana in the spiritual world. So therefore, Krishna just had to wrap up, the Bhauma Leela pastime and remanifest it in the spiritual world. So like that. So there's, like Prabhu explained yesterday, one of the original forms of Krishna also went back with the Vrajabasis to Goloka Vṛndāvana, and the other part stayed back in Bhauma Vrindavan, and the other one is Vasudev Krishna, who stayed back in Dwarka. So, Gita Varadarajan Mataji, was Radharani present in this meeting at Kurukshetra? Yes, she was present in this meeting at Kurukshetra along with the Brajbasi girls. Yes, she was present in this meeting at Kurukshetra. So, anyways, thank you all so much. We'll just check if there's any other questions on Facebook. But we like to thank Nrsinga Gaura Hari Prabhu, Manjwali Vraja Gopaji, Uma Mataji, welcome. Pushpa Preeti Mataji and Ranjani Gopika Mataji over Facebook. Thank you all for joining us. And on YouTube, we'd like to thank Janeshwar Gauranga Prabhu, Rajeshwari Mataji, Barshana Chitra Mataji, Meena Mataji, Swati Mataji, Shama Supriya, Soumya Mataji, Ma Baba, Reena Mataji, Lalita Mataji, Radhakrishnan Prabhu, Keshavi, Venkatapati Prabhu, thank you, Sudesh Prabhu, Madhubhashini Mataji, Sudha Mataji, Rekha Mataji. Thank you all so much for joining in, Gita Varadarajan Mataji. So we thank you all so very much for joining us in this session. We look forward to seeing you all in our next session. Thank you all so very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Vartaman Guru Vrind ki jai. Oh, Janeshwar Gauranga Prabhu, do you have a question? We can just see. Yeah. Okay, we see a question. If everyone went to Goloka Vrindavan, who was left since Krishna stayed behind? Well, all the Yadavas. This was only the Brajbasis. They went back to Goloka Vrindavan. Nanda Baba, Jashoda Maya, the cowherd girls, the cowherd boys, everyone went back to Goloka Vrindavan. It was only the Vrindavan devotees who went back. But all the the Dwarkavasis, the Vrishnis, the Yadavas, they were all still present. So Krishna stayed back. So we can see that how even before the battle of Kurukshetra, the Vrajbasis had been transported to Goloka Vrindavan already. So hope that answers your question, Prabhu. Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Vartaman Guru Vrind ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Sadanat Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you. Hare Krishna.